Welcome to Long Live Baseball. On today's episode, Scott Rowland is a Hall of Famer. Way to go, Scott. Cardinals fans are waiting for something to happen. And I guess something's happened. We have Chip Carey as our television broadcaster. We'll break that down. We'll also kind of go through the NL Central projections as we've broken down every team so far. We also have team previews, by the way, which we will plug. We'll go through all the MLB news and notes. Well, of course, we'll have Mike's dictionary segment. And as always, joining me on Long Live Baseball, we have my Cubs fan frenemy, the best Cubs fan that I can tolerate. He's here with me, as always. Mike Jones, everybody.
I think you finally figured out what to call me, the best Cubs fan I can tolerate. I like that.
Yeah.
I think yeah. That's the
Yeah, actually, I can tolerate all of you because it's so I don't know, it brings warmth to my heart when I go to Wrigley Field, and everything that I have known, just like you have the cards suck, coffee mug, and now that's good.
I didn't even realize.
Oh yeah, of course. Everything that I've known my entire life to be true about Cubs fans is confirmed every time I go to Wrigley Field, and it's great. Mm-hmm. So it wouldn't be the rivalry without some of that stuff. So
now listen. Hey, we've sat in the bleachers together, and Cubs fans were decent to you. You didn't have to. That's why it's the best rivalry in baseball.
Let me define that. All right, so. The Wrigley Field is a great place to catch a ball game. Not as good as Busch Stadium, but we'll save that argument for another day. Yes, it is called the friendly confines for a reason. I've never had an issue or a problem at Wrigley Field. Then again, there's a lot of what's the PG way of saying this? Tomfoolery that goes on with Cubs fans, so that's fine, but nothing malicious or anything like that. And it just makes for a good rivalry, the best rivalry in baseball for sure. Now, to be fair, I've also been to a Red Sox Yankees game, and while I wasn't wearing Red Sox or Yankees anything, that rivalry also seemed pretty civil. So but I've only been there one time.
I would say that what were you wearing?
Probably like a Cardinals jersey or something.
Nice. Well done. Well played. Yep. Tip of the hat to you. Going to opposing team stadiums and representing. I like it.
Oh yeah.
I like it a lot. Yep.
So did you know, Mike, before we get going?
Yeah.
That the oldest known living land animal is a tortoise named Jonathan, who's 190 years old, who's about to turn 190 years old. He was born in 1832 and has lived on the island of St. Helena in the Atlantic Ocean since 1882. Apparently he's still alive, and we can prove this somehow.
I have no idea. I do know this, that there are, and I'm probably going to get this wrong, but my son attends Wartburg College in Waverly, Iowa. Mm-hmm. And come the springtime, the budding of the flowers and the sunshine and all of the things, and about that, I don't know, roughly 55-ish days, 54-ish days. That during the springtime, the tortoises come out at Wartburg College in the science complex. They have a family of them, and some science teacher all winter long, because winters are kind of rough on tortoises, I guess. I don't know for sure, but they can be. And so he keeps them in his basement. Does that seem a little?
He just has a basement full of turtles.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, turtle. I mean, I'm talking about the big ones now. I don't know. Is that a tortoise versus a turtle?
That's a good question. I'm not really too familiar with it, but
So all you
How
biologists that are listening in on the show, please put in the comments section the difference.
Educate us, because we have no idea. What's the difference between a turtle and a tortoise?
You Googlers.
It sounds like a great Harry Carey nonsense segment during a baseball game.
Well, actually, I mean, I think this would be Pat Hughes probably knows the difference.
Probably when you do 162 games per year.
Yes,
you can't just talk about baseball all the time.
Exactly. And so the tortoise is what a great animal. So I was like, hey, how cool would it be to have one of these as a pet? And of course, my wife ixnayed the tortoise in the basement. I don't even know what that is, Pig Latin. But she put the kibosh on that, as they say. But as I was researching what it would be like to own a tortoise, do you know, because of Jonathan, 100 and whatever years old you said, you get a tortoise for life. So, I mean, if you buy a baby tortoise, you better plan on who you're handing that tortoise off to after you're gone, because you're going to be gone before the tortoise is.
Wow.
What a great pet.
I know. It's like, I have the answer, by the way, according to the NashvilleZoo.org. So if this is wrong, you go attack Nashville Zoo.
Yeah.
Tortoises have more rounded and domed shells, where turtles have thinner, more water dynamic shells. So I guess the key difference is turtle shells are more streamlined to aid swimming, and tortoise shells are more designed to aid them on land.
All right.
That's the difference between a tortoise and a turtle.
All right. Well, there you go. And it seems as if I'll bet you a tortoise does not live in water like a turtle might.
Yeah.
By the sounds of it.
How long do you think before Elon Musk or one of these billionaires decides, you know what we need to do in order to prolong human life is we need to start looking at what the turtle's DNA looks like? Or is that already going on?
They're already working on that.
We're already working on Turtle Man.
Oh, I'm sure Turtle Man is the next big thing.
Turtle Man. Yeah.
He's probably already been to space.
No. Speaking of space, this isn't a good transition. Chip Carey is the new Cardinals television broadcaster, and really quick on that, I don't know if we talked about Dan McLaughlin too much on this show, but Dan McLaughlin obviously had the issue with DUI, third DUI. So he might be doing some jail time. I'm not exactly sure on the current events on his situation, but the Cardinals had to move on from him as their television broadcaster. We wish Danny Mac nothing but the best in his recovery. It seems to be going well so far, but I don't know if the Cardinals could have gotten a better Dan McLaughlin replacement than Chip Carey. Just kind of listening to him over the years in his time with the Cubs and more recently the Braves, couldn't be a more professional guy, couldn't be a nicer guy. And I think the Cardinals got really lucky. I know you were a Cubs fan probably during the time when Chip was with WGN, probably.
Yeah.
What do you think of Chip Carey?
Oh,
Mike?
Hey, great broadcaster. I don't, no complaints. Great acquisition for the Cardinals. To steal him away from the Braves organization. That's, I mean, you would say, well, a middle market team just got a big market announcer, but the Cardinals announcers have historically been big market announcers too. So, yeah.
Well,
great acquisition.
What a lot of people don't know is his grandfather was, I think, with the Cardinals for 20 plus years before he eventually moved on and did Cubs games. And they're from St. Louis. That family is from St. Louis. Originally, so he probably grew up being a Cardinals fan. I would guess. I don't know that for a fact, but imagine
I don't think there's any question.
Imagine you grow up and you're a fan of a team. It would be like you grow up and you're a fan and your grandpa is broadcasting their games. And I don't know if as a kid you can really take in the significance of that, but your grandpa is literally calling the games that you're a fan of. You could probably go up to the booth. I don't know just
Oh,
how
yeah.
special and amazing that is. And then one day that team comes calling and says, "Hey, would you like to do the same job that your grandpa did?" That's
Yeah.
pretty. To me, that would be
listen.
pretty special.
Yeah.
And it's got to be just, it's got to be really, really just an honor for him. I would think not because it's the Cardinals or anything. It could be any team, but I mean, I can't imagine how he feels about that.
Yeah, listen, the thing that I just stick on there as you're describing that is you're absolutely right. Because here's probably what happened. He was probably running around Busch Stadium as a kid, and probably back in that time, probably just had free run of the stadium. I mean, I can remember when I was growing up, my parents worked in a Capitol building, a state Capitol building, and so they worked there all day. And during the summertime, I was around, just had the run of the town. So my mother and stepfather were both going to work at the state Capitol building. And while they were at work, I could do what I wanted. So I'd go up to the Capitol building and I would run around the Capitol. I'd go into the House chambers. I'd go into the Senate chambers. I'd go into because nobody was there. It's the summertime. Politicians take the summer off. I mean, they're only in session so much time out of the year. I would walk into the governor's office. I would walk into the attorney general's office of the state, and so much like that. I imagine, grandpa's in the booth, and I got the run of the place, man. I bet, everybody knows that's whose grandson that is. And he's probably just had it. And so, did he know at the time the significance of being able to do that? Probably not. But now looking back on it, he's like, wow. And now I'm back here. What a great thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's great. I think that's great. I think the next thing we're going to talk about is even greater than that.
You bet.
And it's the fact that Scott Rowland is a Hall of Famer now. And just to, Scott Rowland was one of the first players because the Cardinals acquired him, I believe, in the early 2000s. Somebody can correct. I should know that offhand, but and they acquired him from the Philadelphia Phillies. And I remember when that happened, I didn't really have a really great knowledge of, players. I mean, I was just a kid and I was a Cardinals fan. On July 29th, 2002 is when the Cardinals acquired him. So I was right on the money.
You bet.
I just knew he was a really good player. I knew a lot of Cubs fans in my life were upset that the Cardinals were able to get him. And then you watch the guy play, and I'm completely biased, both because he's a Cardinals fan, or both because he's a Cardinals player and because he was one of the first players I've ever saw. But in my mind, he and Nolan Arenado are two of the best third basemen I've ever seen play the position defensively. There would be plays where, I mean, there'd be a smoke show of a line drive hit down the left field, and the camera wouldn't even have enough time to pan over there. Like, it was just a split second, and you'd see Rowland sprawled out, making a catch on a line drive or fielding a ground ball. And then, of course, he had one of the best arms in all of baseball, and he could easily throw out whoever was running down the first baseline. It didn't really matter. And you never really saw him make a mistake. I mean, he just played the best defense you've ever seen out of that position. And for him to be, I think, the 9th third baseman to make it into the Hall of Fame, to me, in my eyes, whenever I watched him play, and I feel the same way about Nolan Arenado, and I think Nolan Arenado is likely a future Hall of Famer too. I mean, he's worth the ticket that you bought to come in to watch. I mean, he gets a couple baseballs hit his way, he's fielding them, and he's probably going to make some off balance throws and dive, and And also not only that, but the way that he approached the game and did all the little things correctly. Like, he was one of the best base runners in all of baseball at the position, for a guy who was 6'4", 250 pounds, just a massive human being. Ran the bases like a smaller player. He took a lot of pride in doing that. And the one thing that I took away from his MLB network called him up, and he had himself on a Zoom call. He had all his family there, and he did this whole thing where he wrapped around and showed his entire family. And it was really, really heartwarming to see that. But he said, one of the things he said, and I think any young baseball player can take this away. It's like, the way you run the bases says a lot about you as a person. I don't think he even said a player. He said says a lot about you as a person.
Yeah.
Just what kind of person you are. Are you going to go the extra mile and be concerned about something that's not as flashy, even though base running can be flashy if you can steal a lot of bases. But, a lot of times taking the extra base and running the bases the right way goes unnoticed. It's the same way of playing defense. Sometimes being in the right position could go unnoticed. But those were the things that separated Rolen from a lot of other third basemen that could maybe hit more home runs, or and not too many people could do that either. So it's well deserved, I think. And we can have conversations, and it really bums me out, honestly, when somebody gets into the Hall of Fame. And I believe that Rolen is somebody who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, not a doubt in my mind. But then some of these baseball writers, their reaction is not, "Oh, isn't it great that Rolen got into the Hall of Fame?" It's, "Well, that doesn't make any sense because what's his face isn't in the Hall of Fame." It's like, guys, this isn't a perfect process. It never will be a perfect process. Whenever human beings are involved in something, it's not going to be a perfect process. But the fact that he went through the process, did everything the right way on the baseball field, and got elected, barely, but he got elected by the hair of his chinny chin chin, I think by 5 or 6 votes, to the greatest honor there is in baseball. It happened. Why can't we just take a moment, instead of saying immediately, well, but why can't we just say, "That's amazing. Congratulations, Scott Rolen"?
Yeah, because we're human beings. I mean, hey, ultimately, congratulations, tip of the hat to Scott Rolen. I don't care how you made it, hairy or chinny chin chin or not. I don't care that you're a Cardinals player, former Cardinals player, former Phillies player, former Reds player, all of those things. I don't care who you played for. You got in. I don't care that your statistics are lower than some other players who have not even been on the ballot, i.e. Mark Grace, for example, at a different position. Okay, that's just one example that I read about in some of the naysayers' comments. Well, if Rolen's in the Hall of Fame, then Grace should be. Yeah, I agree. Grace should get a ballot look. I mean, he should get, based on his numbers at first base, I think so. But when you look at the number of third basemen that have been, nominated and elected into the Hall of Fame, congrats to Scott Rolen. I mean, listen to something. I know you haven't talked about these because you're more sentimental about the thing, but here it is: 281 batting average over his lifetime, 2,077 hits, 316 home runs, 1,287 runs batted in. Debuted for the Phillies, played for the Cardinals, the Blue Jays, and the Reds. A 7-time All-Star, World Series champion, National League Rookie of the Year, Gold Glove award 8 times, a Silver Slugger award, and obviously is in the St. Louis Cardinals Hall of Fame. All of that speaks to congratulations, Scott Rolen. And that's just the nature of, I think, sports media now is as soon as it's the nature of human beings. We're just going to grab them by the coattails and try to pull them down. Just how it goes. But I'm more on the side of, especially in a high honor like this, hey, once the vote is in, let's congratulate him. right?
Yeah.
I mean, but you know, we're bipolar or polarized, not bipolar. We are probably bipolar, but you know, such a polarized country anymore that we've always got to have a negative, you know, look at it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I can tell you, just going to the stadium, one of the highlights of going to any Cardinals game was watching Scott Rowland play third base, and I think that matters. You know, if you were a fan of the St. Louis Cardinals, you understood the significance that player had on the team, and the attitude that he brought every single game, that he's going to play the game the way the game was supposed to be played. And I think that matters. You know, I think counting stats matter too, but the impact that you have on a day in, day out basis matters. And Scott Rowland had a significant impact, more than a significant impact on every game that he was in. And for that reason, I believe, is one of the main reasons he's in the Hall of Fame, and deservedly so. And like you said, there's a lot of guys that aren't in, that deserve more of a chance than what they get and what they've gotten. You know, I've heard Kenny Boyer's name thrown around too, who I think was a third baseman for the Cardinals, who has very similar numbers. Some of the older guys, I'm gonna space Rick Hummel, who's an older writer for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, said that, you know, Kenny Boyer should get a look now by that committee that, you know, that reviews players who have, you know, their time on the Hall of Fame ballot has expired. And, you know, there's a lot of players who deserve more attention than they get. Like Mark Grace is probably a good example.
Right.
So anyway.
Can I speak into just a second one of the things that you talked about in terms of the presser and that kind of thing? You know, there's an old saying around sports, and I think this is true of baseball, and Roland might not have put it this way, but I think this is exactly what he was saying is, you know, a lot of people feel like I got to get my kids involved in sports because it builds character. And that's actually, in my opinion, not true. Sports reveal character, and the way you run the base paths, you know, like Roland said, that reveals character, reveals who you are. It, you know, when you're out on the field, you know, the way you run the bases matters. All the accolades and all that kind of stuff. He probably didn't even talk about any of that stuff, right? I mean, Roland holds the distinction, if I remember correctly, or I read about this, that I think it was like around 11% on his first ballot appearance for the Hall of Fame. And so he holds the distinction of having the lowest percent of votes on a first ballot and then eventually getting elected into the Hall of Fame. So I think this was like his 6th or 7th try, if I'm not mistaken. Our friends at you know, Ryan Thibodeau and those guys could help us out in terms of and Adam Dorr could help us out. But you know, I just think it's a unique distinction in terms of you know, the numbers wise. But regardless, he's voted in.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. We'll have to get Adam back.
He's a Hall of Famer. I mean, you can't take that away from him. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
You know?
And like I said, we'll have to get Adam back and talk about you know, how the process went down this time around. And I don't know how much you can talk about, like, who should have been in, who should have, you know, like, should Todd Helton be in? I don't know how many if you can have those conversations, but it's the process of the Hall of Fame. There's nobody that we know that's better. That, you know, they have that Hall of Fame ballot tracker, and you can what's the Twitter handle? Not the real Tibbs or something like that.
Yeah, not Mr. Tibbs, I think.
Not Mr. Tibbs on Twitter is if you want the tracker for next year.
Yeah.
So that's fascinating whenever those ballots come in, because the writers, how I understand it is some of the writers reveal their ballots and other writers don't. And so this tracker that's not the real Mr. Tibbs on Twitter reveals the votes as they come in. So you can literally see, you know, the results as they come in. It's kind of like getting the behind the scenes look at the voting process, which is really cool for people who nerd out about baseball like Mike and I do. So,
and you can also follow at Shut the Door DORE. That is the guy that we had on the show previously, probably one of our most viewed episodes. So,
yes, sir.
Yep.
All right. Hats off to Scott Rowland. What a guy. What a player. Deserves it. And can't say anything but good things about that guy. Some other news and notes that I came across. Not much really going on in the Major League Baseball, but Zach Greinke back with the Royals. I think that's a good thing for the Royals. I don't know how fast or how I don't know what Zach Greinke's fastball's topping out at these days, but anyway, we'll see how he does. The Royals are a young team with a lot of prospects, up and coming prospects on their team. I look forward to breaking down the Royals here soon. The White Sox on Friday acquired bullpen depth, acquired Franklin Herman from the Red Sox in exchange for minor league right-hander Theo Denlinger to make room for I have a rant here coming up, by the way. To make room for Herman on the 40-man roster, Chicago's designated hitter Jason Beloy, they designated him for assignment. And so what I've noticed, Mike, is when I do these player breakdowns, occasionally I will mispronounce a player's name. So for all of you out there in the audience, right? Because I've had some people in the comments say it's pronounced like they give me the phonetic spelling, like this is how you pronounce it. And to all of those people, I would say, relax. Maybe go golfing. Maybe take up a hobby. I really appreciate you clicking on the video and watching it, but your need to correct my pronunciation of hundreds, maybe thousands of player names is, I appreciate it, I guess, but it doesn't do me any good because I've already published the video, right? I've already published the video. Maybe going forward, if we talk about this player, maybe it helps me out, but
that's live broadcasting for you. Listen, I've done some PA work at a number of events, including some minor league baseball and some major league baseball. No, I'm kidding. Minor league baseball and high school stuff. And probably one of my best moments in the not broadcast booth, but PA announcing was when I was pronouncing a difficult to pronounce name at a track meet. And moments later, I heard we were up in the crow's nest, and I heard on the stairs, and a mother was up in the press box, pointing her finger at me, giving me the business because I mispronounced her son's last name at a track meet. So yeah, those people are out there. But hey, okay, I got it right after that.
Yeah. So it's I don't know if these people are offended or if they're just trying to help me.
I think they're trying, but you got to look at it. You got to assume best intentions, right? You just have to assume that they're not offended. They're just trying to help you out. That's how it's pronounced.
But it's so much more fun if I can be mad at them. Anyway, so that's the news. Is there any other news? I didn't really see much of anything going on, Mike.
Well, I mean, you spoke about Chip Carey, and the Cubs had some big news on their end of things too. And so World Series champion center fielder Hugo Wego, former Cub Dexter Fowler announced his retirement after 14 years in baseball. And then the Cubs made a major announcement that Dexter Fowler is going to be joining I believe it's the Marquee staff as a baseball analyst on the Marquee staff. So Dexter Fowler came home again. I love, nothing but fond memories of Dexter Fowler, Hugo Wego guy. And that definitely held true to him. And look forward to hearing his thoughts on Cubs baseball and the competition that we'll be facing through the years. So kind of exciting news, I guess. The news that's fit to print, right, in regards to the Cubs. Like I said, it's been kind of a slow baseball week. But
well, here's the thing that might affect the Cardinals' chances at winning a division or the making the playoffs, or if the Cubs want to make the playoffs, there's this thing called a balanced schedule, and we have to thank Mike Petro. Talk about a name I'm going to get wrong. Petrio. Blah, 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 blah. Mike.
Yeah, that guy,
yeah,
Mike.
Blah blah blah. Mike. Blah blah blah. Mike Petrio. I don't know. You can find him at Mike Mike. That's how you spell that. _ Petriello.
Petrilio. I don't know.
On the Twitter.
Just say it like you think you know what it's how it's said. There you go.
Petrillo. Anyway, and the title of the
Portobello.
article is Portobello mushroom. All right, don't call me Portobello, Mike. How 2023 balanced schedule could affect playoff races. So I could read you the whole article, but the main point is that the Cardinals and the Cubs and the Brewers are not going to have as many games against these bottom dweller Cincinnati Reds, Pittsburgh Pirates teams. They're going to, like, the Cardinals open up with the Toronto Blue Jays. So it's going to be more of a balanced schedule. There's going to be more playing teams from other divisions that are likely better teams, because I think instead of playing the Pirates and Reds like 15 times, I think it's cut down a couple series. So I think the Cardinals and everybody in the Central plays them 9 times. So that's three game series, however you want to look at that. I think that's how it works. So that is likely going to mean that teams like the Cardinals and the Cubs and the Brewers are not going to win as many games. So it's likely going to mean the Central is even weaker this year. What do you think about these changes and how they could affect playoff races, Mike?
Well, for
those of you who aren't watching YouTube,
I'm not a fan. Oh, I'm sorry. I know I'm wearing my Rob Manfred's ruining baseball shirt, and listen, it's this one. I'm going to put it on Manfred, but I'm not going to put it on Manfred. I don't know what's driving this decision. I don't know if it's because they're trying to get the fandom base happy. They think that somehow this is going to please fandom. I don't know if it's the Players Association saying, listen, I want to be able to say one day to my grandkids that I played in every ballpark in the country. I don't over a 2-year span. I don't know if it's because they know that this idea of making it to all the ballparks is a thing, with people, like that's a bucket list item. I'd like to know why, and I probably shouldn't judge it before I know that. But so really what we're talking about is that all 30 clubs are going to play each other throughout the course of the season. The Cardinals-Cubs series, for example, minus the 2 games that were St. Louis home games that have been moved to London, right? I think that the Cubs and Cardinals, if I'm not mistaken, only have 2 series against each other at Wrigley Field. And one of them is like on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I would have thought that the owners would have thought, like, what is this going to do to ticket sales? And aren't ticket sales driving everything now? I don't know that this is going to increase attendance. I don't know that this is good. I just don't know that this is good for baseball. Now, when you look at the article as a whole, so now you're going to have 52 divisional games against divisional opponents versus 76. 13 games, 4 total series against each divisional opponent, decreased from 19 games across 6 series. And so I like the idea of the interleague play, more interleague play. I mean, I think that there's something fun about that. And maybe they've found in their analytics that when the Red Sox come to town in Chicago, ticket sales go up. So why wouldn't that be true of, some other non-divisional team? I just don't know. I'm not. I think out of all the things, and then this is the one that I like the least. This is just my perspective. There's something that I don't like about it, and I guess only time will tell. Clubs are going to play 42 games out of 162 against other interleague opponents. So that and then how does that impact, like you said, the playoff race, and how does that impact the division title? How does that impact? And this article that I'm sure we could put a link to in the show notes or whatever, goes into great detail about how it's going to affect each league and each division in each league. And by and large, in the big picture, I think it speaks to, not much of an impact here, not much of an impact here, could impact here a little bit. I didn't see, as I read through the article, any major impacts according to Portobello, but maybe it's just amongst all the changes that we're going to see, the base sizes, the pitch clock, all of that. I think this is the one that Major League Baseball fans know the least about and are going to be surprised the most about. Like, why aren't we playing? What happened to, and how's it going to change records? And it will be interesting to see, but I hope it's an experiment. You know what I mean? Yeah. I hope it's a 2-year experiment and we get back to more interleague ball.
Well, that's just comparing it to the NFL, because the NFL is the most popular sports league on the face of in America. I'm sure soccer's maybe the most popular in the world, but the NFL there's 17 games now, and you play 6 out of 17 games against the teams in your division. You literally play them that's like 40%. That's a little over 30%. Like, it's somewhere in between 30 and 40%. That's a huge part of your schedule. And to me, I don't know, I think your division matters. And I know the Central Division has been bad for a while, and the Reds and the Pirates have been bad for a while, but in a couple years, the Reds and Pirates could be good. They could have prospects coming up. We don't know. Like, the Reds have a couple really nice young pitchers right now, in Lodolo and Hunter Green. So we don't know. They could be better than expected this year, and you just can't predict the future. We can give it our best guess, but we just don't know. And to say, the whole reason, what is the reason behind this? That's what I would like to know. Is it because we want more exposure to different teams? Do we want, to play in every ballpark so every fan base can see the Cardinals play their team on TV or at their ballpark or something? I don't. If that's the reason, then I'm more for it than I would be against it. But for this reason, I think less games against the Cubs, right, is not a good thing. I think we need, if you're taking away rivalry games that are going to enhance a rivalry in a brand like the Cubs and Cardinals rivalry, then I don't know if this is a good thing. But if you could say, well, Seth, this means that the Cardinals are going to play the Royals more. Well, I don't think it is, because I think that we still have those 2 weird 2-game series against the Royals this year, because that's another rivalry that hasn't been a thing for a while. Because I know, just living here in Kansas City, that there's a lot of times those Cardinals Royals games are the most heavily attended at Kauffman Stadium, some of the most heavily attended games. So it could be a good thing for smaller market teams if they get to see the Yankees and the Red Sox, and they have more dates against those people at home. But I don't necessarily like this, because I think it takes away from the significance of your division. I think your division's important. I think it's being the NL Central champs has to mean something, and I think it still will to a certain degree. But that means playing teams in your division more than you play teams elsewhere, right? Otherwise, how do you gain ground in your division? How do you go up the standings when your division is something that is supposed to matter? And I guess it still will, but like I think that diminishes that a little bit, and I don't know if I like that, because now if you're, say you're, 6 games out in August, and you look at the schedule and you think, oh well, darn, we don't have any more games against the Cubs, or we have one more series against the Cardinals. So we're just going to have to hope that the Cardinals lose a bunch of games and we win a bunch of games, because we don't play them head to head where we could directly impact that.
Yeah. The accordion.
That's more interesting. And that's more interesting, right? That's more interesting. It's like, the Cardinals have a 2-game lead, but they have a 3-game series against the Cubs or the Brewers.
Right.
What happens if the Cubs sweep them? Then it kind of takes that away from it, I think.
The accordion act is going to leave our lexicon. I mean, how many times have we talked about on this show, the Cubs or the Cardinals are only 8 games back, but look at their schedule. They got to play the Brewers 3 times. They got to play the Reds, who's got Hunter Green. They got to play, that piece of it, I agree, is challenging. Now, the one aspect of it that I don't think we've talked about yet is that another potential impetus for doing it might be so that the Chicago Cubs fan base can see Shohei Ohtani, can see Mike Trout, can see Aaron Judge, can see, Wander Franco, or, pick some names, but so that can take place too, that they think that the big marquee names, the star names are what people want to see. And I'm sure they've done their research, what would bring you to the ballpark more and that kind of thing. They're always doing stuff like that. But for the true baseball fan, the fan, and I don't want to say that other people aren't fans or things like that. For guys like you and me, I just don't think it's going to be a positive move in that regard. Maybe it will target a certain amount of people, but I don't know. Time will tell.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to know what this is, because to me, it would appear as though somebody's looking at the Central and going, hey, that's not fair that they're going to play all those, those terrible teams. And to me, it's like, well, buddy, listen up. The NL East, it's good right now, but in 5 years, is it going to be any good? Probably not, because all those teams just signed a bunch of players, especially the Mets, to stupid contracts. And so unless they want to go way over the luxury tax, which is possible, likely 5 years from now, when Verlander's 50 years old and when Scherzer's pushing 40 years old, if he's not already, that team's not going to be as good, and they're still going to be paying these guys. So you're it's like the weather in the Midwest. If you don't like it, just wait 5 minutes. We don't know how these divisions are going to play out in the long term. So anybody arguing that point, I think, is off base, and that's a bad reason for making this schedule change. Now, if it's because of what you just said, then I'm more for it than for the other reason. But if you're telling me that I get to see the Cubs play the Cardinals, or the Brewers play the Cardinals in what is a budding rivalry, less, then I'm just not going to like that. I don't like that, because I love the rivalry aspect of it. And now you're telling me the Red Sox and Yankees play each other less? That can't be good for television, right? I don't know.
Can't be good for that. Yeah.
No, can't be good for ratings. Honestly, it's kind of cool. The way I think about it, is it cool that the Cardinals play the Blue Jays to open up the season? Yeah. Do I care about the Blue Jays? No, not really.
Right.
I mean, would it be better if it was the Brewers? Yeah. Would it be better if it was the Pirates? Maybe not this year, but who knows? 5 years from now, the Pirates could be good again. I mean, probably not, because they're the Pirates, but we don't know. I can't tell you that. As the world's most renowned Pirates hater, Seth Ewald, and how they run their business and organization, and how and the Reds for that matter, throw the Reds in there. How I am the person on this planet who despises the way some of these MLB teams go about their business. But that doesn't mean that I really know anything about like their prospects 5 years from now. That's the dumbest, and it's the dumbest question to ask. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? I don't know. Like, I hope healthy and alive. I don't know.
Right.
You know, anyway, I think it's a mistake, maybe made for the right reasons. But if it means that we see less interdivision rivalry games, I think that's not going to be good for baseball in the long term.
Yeah. So, and to speak into it just a little bit more, Seth, as you know, I get several games at Wrigley Field every year. And so we held our draft for our tickets in early January, earlier than we've ever done it all year. And it's interesting to me because as I did my draft, I only have, looking at the schedule, I only have 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like 4 games against out of 20 games. I only have 4 games against divisional opponents. So what I'm telling you in that regard is that when I executed my draft, it had less to do with who we were playing than it did the dates that I was going to be available to go to the ballpark potentially, or putting a package of dates together, right? Like the 4th of July weekend, or a birthday weekend or something like that, or when I was available more. It had more to do with that than it did who we were playing. So, as at the one hand, when I'm saying I don't like it, when I look at the actual ticket purchases that I made for ball games, it's interesting that I'm only going to see the Reds. That's it, as far as divisional games. But part of the reason for that, I believe, is because there are fewer games against the Cardinals. Yeah. There are fewer games against the Brewers. So when it came time to do the draft, depending on where they were on the calendar, those games got picked up quick, and then they were gone. I mean, we lost games against the Cardinals. We lost games against the Brewers. And so, I don't know. Not a fan.
Yeah. All right. Should we move on to tweet of the week?
Absolutely.
All right. So my tweet of the week, I'm just going to get it out of the way because it's already been talked about. Comes from St. Louis Cardinals at Cardinals on Twitter. It's acknowledging Scott Rowland. Congratulations, Scott Rowland, one of the greatest third basemen of all time. And it just says Scott Rowland has been elected to the National Baseball Hall of Fame. And it's a nice picture of Rowland making a backhanded play there. So, again, congratulations to Scott Rowland. And also shout out to the Michael Scott crying gift down right below the picture, which I can appreciate because honestly, a tear was brought to my eye when I heard the news too. So I was really happy for Mr. Rowland. Mike, what is your tweet of the week?
Yesterday was 2/3/23, 23/23/23. In other words, it was Ryan Sandberg Day, for those of you who didn't know. And it wasn't announced yesterday. However, my tweet of the week is from our friends at Obvious Shirts, at obvious_shirts. Happy 2/3/23. My obvious vote for Rhino's statue, and it's not even close. Ryan Sandberg is getting a statue at Wrigley Field. Mark Grace, Sean Dunston are going into the Cubs Hall of Fame. But can't wait for that statue to be unveiled in 2024. Well-deserved tip of the hat to Ryan Sandberg, who will be immortalized outside the federal landmark, and deservedly so.
Mike, yes, I agree. That's good stuff. Mike, you've got we're going to transition now to Cards Cubs news. You've got like 8 links here to all this different stuff. And then I want to talk about this so bad because it just highlights everything that is, I mean, just, I don't want to say unbearable, but it's just, it's exhausting. It's just
what are you talking about?
You just look at it and you go, like, what is happening here? Your poll down there, your Twitter poll that probably, Cubs go on Twitter, or somebody put out there for all the Cubs fans. And
what about
it's like, what? Yeah. I'm looking. All right.
How many games do you think the Cubs are going to win this year? And I haven't done my preview of the Cubs yet, but I'm going to in one of our shorter segments coming down the road. Do you want to go directly to that? Because you haven't talked about how magnificent the Cardinals offense is going to be this year, how phenomenal they're going to be. Or are you gonna launch into that first, or do you want to talk about the poll?
Let's talk. God, let's get this over with.
Listen, I think the Cubs are going to win. 68% of baseball fandom agrees with me that the Cubs are going to win 80 to 89 games this year, that they hold the potential to do that. Listen, in the earlier link, the bottom line is, do the Cubs have a realistic chance of winning the National League Central? And I think people have written them off. I think you've written them off. I think you think they're a third place team. But I don't. Yep. I think that you. Yep. I don't think that you realize the significance of some of the signings. Do you know that the Cubs signed the most free agents during the off season of any baseball team, while keeping their prospects, by and large? Christopher Morel. That's the only one I'm talking about.
There's another team that did that, but you keep going.
There is another team that did that. Okay. And but I just think that they're, first of all, a lot of my information comes from a guy at Bleed Cubby Blue. Yeah, he's a diehard Cub fan, Al Yellen.
That sounds like a non-biased source there. Bleed
right,
Cubby Blue.
And he just says, "Wait, hear me out," as the subtitle of his article. Okay, because
that could be the headline to any Cubs Bleed Cubby Blue. Wait, hear me out. 105 games is a realistic possibility, guys.
Okay, listen. And he says in an article, obviously, that the Mets technically signed more free agents than the Cubs, but a lot of those were their own free agents. Okay, so yeah, there's a team that did it more, but when you look at the big picture of the departures and the acquisitions that clubs made, the point of the article is that when you look at the acquisitions and the departures that clubs made in the National League Central over the course of the year, for example, key acquisitions for the Cardinals, who are they? Wilson Contreras.
Wilson Contreras, yeah.
Who were their departures? Yadier Molina, Albert Pujols, Jose Quintana, Corey Dickerson. There's more, right? So then you look at the Brewers. Brad Boxberger came to the Cubs. Andrew McCutcheon's gone. Omar Narvaez, Jace Peterson, Hunter Renfroe, Brent Suter, Colton Wong.
And Colton Wong's back, I think.
Oh, is he? Okay, then this could be wrong, but they got, obviously, you mentioned earlier, William Contreras.
Right. Colton Wong went to Seattle, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, he's with Seattle. That's my fault.
All right. So now let's look at Pittsburgh. Ben Gamel, Kevin Newman, Roberto Perez, Dylan Peters. Now, Pittsburgh, out of all the clubs in the National League Central, I think made, what's going on in Pittsburgh? They made some pretty significant moves that you talked about in the short show about the Pirates. The Reds, who'd they lose? Chase Anderson, Aristides Aquino, Kyle Farmer, Mike Moustakas, Donovan Solano, Hunter Strickland, Justin Wilson. The Cubs appear, at least on paper, to potentially be the second best team, this author argues, in the National League Central. The Brewers he says, and the acquisitions and the departures that have been made have just treaded water. And so I think it's an interesting perspective. I think the Central is going to be a lot more competitive than you think it is.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying the Cubs aren't going to be better. Like I think the Cubs are going to be better than they were last year. What I'm saying is the Cardinals are a really good team, and the Brewers have these two guys. I don't know if Cubby Blue even knows who they are or not. Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff at the top of their rotation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not just two of the better pitchers in the division, probably two of the best pitchers in baseball. All right. And they've got this. Okay, go ahead.
Listen, the Cubs have sneakily developed what I think is going to be one of the potentially best defenses in baseball.
Oh, okay.
From a run, I'm just putting it out there. I think they're going to be very good defensively. And of course, a lot of this depends, right? I mean, like anything, there are all these factors that play into this. Is Cody Bellinger going to have a bounce back year? You know, how are our backstops going to perform? Is Miguel Amaya going to play into that backstop picture at all? Coming off surgery, there seems to be good news on that front. Dansby Swanson, how's he going to play? Is Seiya Suzuki, I think one of the key components of this year's Cubs team is, you talk about a you go, we go player, is how is Seiya Suzuki in his second year in the majors going to adjust? And you know, how much has he been working during the offseason? And that's something that Yellen in this article, Bleed Cubby Blue, speaks to too. And then, of course, one of the biggest gaps is and I'm looking forward to when the Cubs sign Andrew Chafin, because we do need a closer. We definitely need a closer. So, and then obviously run prevention is going to be a key to what happens with this ball club too.
Yeah, right. And we'll talk more about it later, but you look at the Cubs and some of, like, I'm not just saying like the Cubs are going to finish third in the division. I think that's a good outcome for them based on where they've been and where they're coming from.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Yeah.
The Cardinals won the division last year. The Brewers won 86 games last year, and they probably could have won more if things would have broke right for them. So I think the Cardinals and the Brewers are just two really good teams, and I've already laid out some of the reasons why. The Cubs, if this is one of the reasons, you said it, they don't really have an established closer. If you look at a lot of their bullpen arms, the Cardinals have a better bullpen. The Brewers have a really good bullpen, or they have two guys in Devin Williams and Matt Bush that project to be the closer and the setup man. The Cubs really don't have that right now. They've got a couple nice arms at the top of their rotation in Stroman and Danny Boy.
And Steele.
And Steele projects pretty well too. But that's it's relatively unknown how he's going to do. Hasn't really proven much to this point. Kyle Hendricks is on the downward slide. I won't doubt the professor. I think he'll be okay. But then, like, once you get 4 or 5 deep in your rotation, it's a lot. The projections aren't as kind to the Cubs where they are to the Brewers and the Cardinals.
Projections, schmections.
All right. So then let's
lies, and statistics.
Let's just get off the show, because this is all we can do right now is project until the season starts. You fool. What are we talking about? So, yeah, this is exactly what is. You just kind of have to shrug, sigh. It's just every year with this. I'm sure there's like the same percentages every year. We have 16% of people, according to this poll, think the Cubs are going to win 90 games. In between 90 and 90. These people are out of their mind. Crazy.
That's the 80,
unbelievably stupid. Like,
that's the 80-20 rule.
No way it could possibly happen. They're not going to win. This is the epitome of being a Cubs fan. Like, this is like, yeah, World Series, man, until so you care about it so much. It's like the guy who starts playing the board game at the beginning. He talks so much smack. He's like, yeah, I'm the expert in playing this board game. I've won so many times. And then about halfway through the board game, when he's losing spectacularly, and you're like, yeah, you're not really talking a big game now. And then they're like, I never cared about the board game. Like that's
Wait,
a Cubs fan right there.
Board gamers talk smack.
What? Yeah, I don't know what kind of board game leagues you're in, but my board game leagues, fights break out. It turns into the Wild Wild West. Guns may be involved. The only rule we have is no touching of the hair or face, and that's it.
Okay.
So anyway, it's a good old time.
Listen,
this poll's ridiculous.
Now listen,
68% of people think the Cubs are going to win 80 to 89 games. So they think they're just as good as the Brewers. They're not. Whatever. So we'll see what happens. But to me, they're the third most talented team in the division, and they have to, like we already talked about the schedule. So they're not going to be able to play the Reds or the Pirates anymore. Like they're going to be playing against those teams less.
Have you even paid attention during the offseason? The third most talented team in the division. Now, come on. We've signed Dansby Swanson. We've got all-star in left field, Ian Happ. We have Seiya Suzuki, who's only in his second year in the majors. I think that you are Cardinals blind to what the Cubs have done during this offseason. I just think that you are underplaying what the Cubs are capable of. In terms of what are the things that the Cubs have been really good at since 2015, 2014, what would you say the number one thing the Cubs have been really good at, even in this lean year in this past year? What would you say they've been really good at if you were to pick one thing?
Finishing third in the division. I don't know.
Pitcher reclamation projects.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the bullpen and that kind of thing. So the Cubs have been very busy quietly in that department as usual. You were a big one to say that, pitching is the most important piece. Well, they have been consistently over the years developing bullpen arms and bringing in pitchers that, need a second shot. I mean, even in the World Series run, they did that with a guy by the name of Jake Arrieta. He was like, went from, who's this guy to how many wins that season? Best, arguably one of the best pitchers in baseball that season. So I think the Cubs have quietly been doing that work, and that goes unnoticed.
All right. Well, I'll just, since I broke down the NL Central and went through all the numbers, let me just tell me, I'll throw out some facts and some not. Well, maybe if they can keep on developing pitchers the way they have been.
Lies, damn lies, and statistics. Go ahead.
All right. So baseball is not a sport based on statistics. Got it. So what kind of evidence should we use then, Mr. Jones? And if not statistics and projections, that's like saying I don't this is another classic move if you're ever in an argument with somebody who doesn't want to acknowledge the truth. So you say, well, according to this article I've read, well, you can't trust anything they say. Well, why? Well, because they lie. Well, so how do you know that? Well, I don't, but I know that. I know that. I'm presenting it to you as fact, even though it's emotion. So anyway, let's just get that out of the way.
Hey, Seth.
So anyway, according
tone
to
it
what
down
we
a little.
can,
Don't get so emotional.
According to what we can measure with facts and statistics, the Cardinals have not only the best lineup in the division, but the best lineup by far in the division, according to Fangraphs. 29.2 projected WAR for the Cardinals, and a team that did finish the number one team in fielding percentage last year. So an elite defensive team, an elite offensive team, with the addition of Wilson Contreras, who, comes in and fills a void for the Cardinals that was basically a cavernous bottomless pit of offense. Love you, Yadier Molina, but you really didn't provide much offense in 2022. So,
or
this
through
offense,
his career, not Hall of Fame, but go ahead.
okay, cheap shot.
No, I'm just talking statistics. Just talking statistics. Go ahead.
The back of the head. Defensive statistics matter too.
Yeah, compare him to all the other catchers. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So
longevity. I'll give him tip of the hat. Good job.
Yeah, you see, this is emotional.
Anyway.
Not at all. So the Cardinals have improved their defense is likely going to be just as good, because really the only person they lost was Harrison Bader. Again, Gold Glover, but we have Dylan Carlson, Tyler O'Neill, and Lars Nootbaar, who project to be really good defenders too. And the Cardinals, like Mike said, like he was talking it up with the Cubs, they kept all their prospects. So did the Cardinals, and the Cardinals have better prospects that they can trade away for a starting pitcher. Not just me saying that. Major League Baseball says it. They rank these prospects. They know more than Mike or I know, including the number 4 prospect in all of baseball, in Jordan Walker. So the Cubs are up against that monster. And it's not just, if it were any other team not named the Cardinals, I would be saying the same thing. So again, you can choose whatever side of the fence to be on. Just know, if you're on my side, you're using stats and, analysis based in fact. And, Mike is using the Twitter poll.
I know it's driving you nuts right now that I'm not responding to that. That's why I'm not responding.
No, you're not. You don't have anything to say.
No, I'm definitely not speechless. However,
right.
Hey, the season's coming. We're almost upon it, and so we shall see how it goes, and then we'll talk about it again in September, October.
You want to know how many games I think the Cardinals are going to win?
How many do you think they're going to win?
90.
What? 90? Okay.
88, 90, somewhere in there.
All right.
And I think that's fair. I think that's very fair.
It's fair.
And we have 16% of people think that's minimum how much the Cubs are going to win anyway, it's crazy. It's crazy. I don't think
it's crazy talk. I get it. 53 days till opening day.
Bleed Cubby Blue. Yeah. All right. Should we move on to the dictionary segment of the program?
Well, we haven't heard the theme song in quite some time.
All right. You ready for it?
I am so ready for it.
It's the Dixon's Baseball Dictionary segment of the show, where Mike pulls out his dictionary.
If you're not watching on YouTube, I actually did just pull out my dictionary, and I've got it on screen here. The Paul Dixon Baseball Dictionary, 3rd edition, the revised, expanded, and now definitive work on the language of baseball. So many things, and now Seth's going to pull his out too. So I'm on page 372, and I know we were in the G's last week on my short segment after the power went out, or a couple weeks ago. And I really have to go back, because I'm not sure, Seth, if you watched that or not, but the globule. I mean, can you come up with a better baseball term than the globule?
I watched it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, that's good.
I was giving you some grief in the chat. You didn't check the chat, but I was saying, who is this guy? Who's this idiot wearing the Cubs stuff? Like, get him out of here.
I'll have to go back and look at.
Yeah, you'll have to see all my awesome comments.
But today I'm on page 372, and I had to stay in the G's because well, listen, not that he's resting anyway. Goat land.
Sorry, I'm gonna pull a Mike Jones and change the topic, and all of a sudden. You know who Paul Dixon looks like on the back of this book?
Who's he look like?
He kind of looks like the comedian Ron White.
Okay, I don't know that I'm not familiar with Ron White so much.
All right, never mind then. I like this look.
I'll take your word for it in that regard.
He's got a pen. He's got a nice look. He's got the glasses pulled up, the pen near his face, so he writes with it.
Do you think that the photographer set that up, or do you think he was just like, I'm going to put my pen by my face and put my glasses on my forehead?
It's like this. Like he's like,
it's interesting.
It's almost like he's answering a telephone call. Like
I would
fake phone.
Yeah, that is dangerously close to the universal sign to call me later, but with a pen.
Yeah, it's amazing. You got to get the book so you can see this picture. I'm not going to show you the picture. You got to buy the book.
There you go
to get the picture.
And hey, I would say if you're going to buy the book, buy it from Burlington at the Book in Burlington, Iowa, a local small town bookstore. They can order the book for you. That'd be a great place to order it. The Paul Dixon Dictionary, baseball dictionary.
If you can get there before Mike Jones buys them out, because Mike likes to, go there to the store as soon as they open, buy all the Paul Dixon baseball dictionaries. So you're gonna have to fight Mike Jones if you want one of these dictionaries, but you might be able to win or get there first. But you're gonna have to. You're going to have to drive fast, break many laws, including, beating up somebody probably to fight your way. I mean, you can't just have a Paul Dixon's baseball dictionary. You have to, beat somebody up to get these things. They're flying off the shelves. So anyway, I'm not trying to tell people that they should commit crimes, but
do I sense sarcasm? That better not be any sarcasm in that.
Sarcasm.
This is a great book.
I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm being 1,000% serious. You buy these things like they're going at us. I'm just saying.
You're right about that.
If you want one at Burlington by the Book, you're going to have to fight Mike Jones for it, and you might have to, go 30 miles above the speed limit to beat you there when they open up. Hey, that's what I'm trying to say.
All right, so here you go. And I know some of you may have a long drive to Burlington, Iowa, the home of Snake Alley and Sturzing's potato chips. And but listen, the first person to comment, I want the book in the comments, and then PMs me or DMs me or what. I don't even know how people get in touch with people anymore. Write me a letter.
A Western Union telegram.
With your address and where I can send it. I will go down to Burlington by the Book, purchase a Paul Dixon baseball dictionary for you, and have it sent to you at your address. First person to comment right there.
How about that?
Page 372. That's a one-time offer only this week on Long Live Baseball.
Did you say 372?
372. Right. Goatland. Have you ever heard of Goatland?
Is that Wrigley Field?
Very good answer, Seth. I think that's very accurate, and that will end the show, folks. Seth finally recognizing the true value of the Chicago Cubs. No, Goatland.
The goat is like, it has a couple meanings, right? The greatest of all time, and then the Billy Goat, the guy who Billy Goat. We all know this. We all know the story.
Cheeseburger.
All he wanted to do was bring his goat into the ballpark, and you guys are like, oh no, we're too good to have a goat in our stadium, and so he cursed the place.
Cheeseburger, Pepsi, Goatland, the mythical. You do know why I just said that, right? You're too young to know why I just said that. Great Saturday Night Live skit years ago. John Belushi. Cheeseburger. The people would come in. They'd say, I'd like a meatloaf piece. No meatloaf, cheeseburger. And it's based on the Billy Goat Tavern in Chicago.
Oh, yeah. I know a lot of those guys are from Chicago, right? Like Belushi and Bill. Is Bill Murray from Chicago?
Yeah. Huge Cubs fan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Goatland is the mythic resting place for baseball's famous goats. So I suppose it's kind of like the cornfield in Iowa. Like, I'd never heard that before. Babe Ruth's up in Goatland, I guess I'd never heard that. And it just talks about Spalding's official baseball guide, page 11, Goatland. Who knew, right? Spalding has an official baseball guide. I'd like to see that and why they were talking about Goatland. That's just an interesting one to me as I came across it. Yeah, so there you go.
Huh. All right. That's good.
The Dixon Baseball Dictionary segment of the show.
I like go fishing too.
Go fishing.
To be lured into swinging at a ball thrown usually low, just outside the strike zone.
Yeah. That one I've heard. I've heard that one.
Yeah. No,
I
like some of these, that I was like, oh yeah, I've heard that before. But it takes, the synapses in your brain just a click once it clicks into place, it's a good feeling. You're like, oh yeah, I've heard that many times.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. The goat's beard, I think, is an interesting one too. That little flap that comes off the catcher's mask that protects his throat.
Oh, yeah. The throat protector.
Yeah, they call it the goat's beard. Don't ever call it a throat protector again, or a throat guard, or anything like. Call it the goat's beard. Hey, coach. My goat's beard came loose. Yeah, I like that. I like that thought. It's like you're having a little internet connectivity problem over there in Kansas City, in the old KC. Maybe not. Maybe it's me.
Sorry, I cut out there for a second. I don't know what you just said.
I said, hey, coach. My goat's beard fell off. My goat's beard. My goat's beard came loose. So all you younger players, that's what you need. My goat's beard. The goat's beard's loose.
So that is the Dixon's Baseball Dictionary segment of the show.
There you go.
Brought to you by Paul Dixon's the Dixon Baseball Dictionary 3rd edition, which you can find at any bookstore near you. Actually, only Burlington by the Book has them, so you're gonna have to charter a flight to Burlington, Iowa, to find one.
Or comment that you want the book in the comments below, and I'll really send you one.
Okay, yeah, do that, or you could do that. This has to be on this episode, right? On this episode.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I would ask you what your bold prediction is, but I already know it's the Cubs are going to win the Central. So do you have another bold prediction?
No.
Okay.
There you go. The Cubs are going to win the Central.
Well, the Cardinals,
finish second at least. At least finish second.
Second. Okay. So they're making the playoffs, though. You said that last time.
I said that last time.
Okay. I think the Cardinals are going to trade for a starting pitcher before the season begins. I think that because if you look at the Cardinals' moves last offseason, and I've said this before, they signed 3 free agents in March, so we just have to be patient. I think they see this as a big need on the team, and they have the pieces to go out there and make a big move for a starting pitcher. So I think they're going to get in the spring. I think they're going to realize, we probably can't depend on Adam Wainwright to pitch 200 innings. We probably need some depth there at least. So I think they're going to trade for or sign a starting pitcher before the season begins. That is my bold prediction.
All right.
So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out our baseball season previews. We're going to be putting those out. I don't know if I can promise that we're going to hit all 30 teams.
I think you've already made that promise.
Well, okay. I'm going to double down on that. We're going to preview all 30 teams. Even if it means we have to cover a few of them on the podcast end of things. But hey, if there's a team that you really want us to preview, comment below and I will make that one a priority. How about that? I will if we have we got to do what the people want. So if you want me to preview the Tampa Bay Rays or the Kansas City Royals or the Detroit Tigers or the Savannah Bananas. I don't know if I can preview that team.
That'd be tough.
That would be tough. They're going to be really good, guys. They're going to be really good. The dance moves in the 3rd inning are going to be even better. So
And whatever team they're playing, the
Yeah.
Washington Wizards, or it used to be the Harlem Globetrotters played the Washington Wizards, I think.
the
That's who they
Generals,
play.
right?
Generals. There you go. Yeah, the Generals. That's right.
So if there's a team that you want me to preview or Mike to preview, let us know in the comments. And like you said, subscribe, like. We've been seeing some steady growth here on the channel, so that's a good thing.
Follow us on Twitter.
Yep.
At Michael Jones, Iowa, at Long Live Baseball, 1L at the end, at Seth _Dewald, DIEWOLD.
Yep. And for Mike, for myself, any final words of wisdom, Mike?
No.
Okay. Go Cardinals, baby.
Let's go Cubs.
Win that Central one more time.
By the way, speaking of the previews, a preview coming up here this weekend is going to be the preview of the Chicago Cubs. So be on the lookout for that. And 53 days until opening day. Pitchers and catchers report in 12. And looks like spring is on the horizon.
It's a beautiful thing. Bye-bye, everybody. Be good. Go Cardinals.
Go Cubs. Go Cubs.
We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.